Meet a genius. A genius is a person with an extraordinary ability. They can do things that other people can't do. Come and find out some weird and wonderful facts about 3 geniuses. Which genius wore her wedding dress to work? Which genius failed most of his exams? Which genius was scared of trumpets? The Wonder Child. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Say Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Mozart was a musical genius. He began to compose music at the age of 5. Born 1756 in Austria, composed over 600 pieces of music, died aged 35. Mozart was a child star. He went all over Europe with his sister and father, and played concerts for kings and queens. Mozart. Father. Sister. Harpsichord. Mozart could play the harpsichord from the age of 4. Mozart never went to school. His dad taught him at home. He wrote his first symphony when he was 8. Mozart wore pigtails. For concerts, he wore fashionable white wigs. Mozart loved dumplings, his wife Constance, and his hair too. Liver dumplings were his favorite food. He married Constance in 1782. He had his hair styled every day. And he loved me. Mozart taught some of his own music to his pet starling. Mozart hated trumpets, Paris, and being told what to do. He was afraid of trumpets, they made him cry. Mozart hated being told what to do. He argued so much that he once lost his job. He thought that Paris was dirty. Mozart thought that he and his son had weird ears. He made this drawing to prove it. The weird ear. Mozart composed music in his head, sometimes scribbling notes as he went along. He said he thought about music all day long. It was hard work being a genius. Mozart once wrote, "Nobody has devoted so much time and thought to music as I." He had to travel for work a lot. Mozart spent 37 days on the road. That's over 10 years of travel. Genius! Mozart is one of the most famous composers ever. Every year thousands of people come to Mozart's hometown for a music festival celebrating his work. Greatest work, The Magic Flute, is an opera by Mozart. It's still so popular that it is performed over 500 times a year around the world. The Woman Who Changed Science. Marie Curie. Say Marie Curie. Curie was a science genius. Her discoveries about radiation changed science forever. Born 1867, in Poland. Won 2 Nobel Prizes for her discoveries in science. Died aged 66. She taught herself to read aged 4. When Curie's mother died, her father had to take in lodgers to pay the bills. Curie had to sleep on the floor. Her dad was a science teacher. Curie was a brilliant student, but girls weren't allowed to go to university in Poland when she was young. Instead, Curie studied in secret classes. She worked for 7 years as a governess. When Curie had saved enough money, she moved to France to study at a university in Paris. Curie loved books, hot chocolate, and Pierre. When she was a student, she survived on hot chocolate, bread, and fruit. She read books in 5 languages. She married Pierre in 1895. He was a scientist too. She loved me too. Her family's dog, Lancet, was big and badly behaved. Curie hated learning Russian history, being a governess, and not sharing. She only worked as a governess so she could save money to study. She didn't like learning Russian history. She preferred to share her science ideas rather than make money from them. When Marie and Pierre got married, they were poor. They had to work in a leaky shed instead of a laboratory, and Curie wore her old wedding dress for work. Curie worked hard for a long time to find out about radiation. She discovered a new metal that no one had known about, called radium. The metal gave off a strange energy that Curie called radioactivity. After dark, the Curie's shed was filled with a blue-green glow. The glow came from radiation. Curie's notebooks are so radioactive that it is dangerous to touch them. Genius! Curie was the first person ever to win 2 Nobel Prizes for science. At the time, some people thought women should not work in science. Her success showed that women could be scientists, and she led the way for other women to study science. Greatest work, Curie's work proved it was possible to split an atom. The man who dreamed of numbers. Srinivasa Ramanujan, se Srinivasa Aramanojan, Ramanujan had one of the greatest maths brains ever. He said that sometimes he got the answers to maths puzzles in his dreams. Born 1887, in India. Taught himself maths and thought up thousands of new maths ideas. Died aged 32. Ramanujan was a genius at maths, but he wouldn't study anything else. He failed all his college exams except maths, of course. In one exam, Ramanujan didn't answer a single question. Ramanujan worked outside his house. Ramanujan invented his own maths language to write down his ideas. He started out writing on a slate using chalk and rubbed out with his elbow. Ramanujan loved notebooks, numbers, and talking. He filled notebooks with maths answers. Someone who knew him wrote that every number was his personal friend. A friend once had to throw a pot of water over his head to stop him talking. When he had a job in England, Ramanujan wrote home asking for coconut oil. Ramanujan hated leaving his home in India, English shoes, and English weather. He didn't like English shoes, so he wore slippers instead, even outside. When he was first asked to come to England, Ramanujan refused to go. The English weather made him miserable. These are pages from Ramanujan's notebooks. Ramanujan's ideas were difficult and new. Hardly anyone understood them. Almost no one understood this either. Ramanujan worked at Cambridge University. He was often unhappy as he missed home, but still came up with amazing new maths ideas. At home, Ramanujan dressed in Indian fashions. When he went to England, he wore a suit for the first time. He went punting. Genius! Today, Ramanujan's maths is helping scientists to work out what happens inside a black hole. Mind-boggling. Greatest work. Websites use number patterns which Ramanujan worked out. Being a genius is simple. You've met 3 geniuses, so now you know their simple secrets. They all had extraordinary ability. They all loved their work. They all worked really hard and never stopped. Simple. Glossary. Atom, tiny parts from which everything is made. Black hole, a part of space that pulls light and things into it. Compose, to make up or create. Governess, a woman who teaches children in their home. Harpsichord, a musical instrument like a small piano. Lodgers, people who pay to live in someone's house. Nobel Prizes, prizes awarded for amazing work in science, medicine, and other subjects. Opera, a drama where all the words are sung. Radiation, a dangerous type of energy which comes from some materials like radium. Symphony, a long piece of music for an orchestra. Look back, explorers. How old was Mozart when he began to compose music? Why did Curie have to study in secret classes? The English weather made Ramanujan miserable. Can you think of another word that means the same as miserable? Why do you think Mozart had to travel for work so much? Why did Ramanujan write home asking for coconut oil instead of buying it in England? Did you find out which genius had a badly behaved dog?